As they leave, all of us know full well that our lives are irreversibly changing. I always told myself that I just have to take life as it comes, but everything's changing so fast, so suddenly. In the end, Lily's an irreplaceable part of the lives of both Hanako and I. The noise of Akira opening the passenger door for Lily brings me out of my thoughts, her hand waving back as Lily gets in. See you guys, take care of yourselves. Goodbye, Hanako. Goodbye, Hisao. Hanako's hand quickly shoots up, her face brightening by her enthusiastic farewell. Goodbye, Lily, goodbye. See you, Akira, and goodbye, Lily. Oh, that was Hisao. I thought that was Lily talking. Like, what? The door shuts as we put on our best happy farewell faces. Akira getting in the car herself and starting it up in short measure. Lily's hand can just be seen waving through the tinted windows, both of our hands waving high as well. Just as every other time I've done such a thing, I can't quite work out precisely why I or Hanako wave to her, given that she'd never see us doing so, but it doesn't matter. Even after that black, shiny car goes down the hill and disappears into the dark night, we carry on waving, seeing Akira and Lily off, and then they're gone. A strange stillness takes over as our hands return to our sides. I don't quite know what I should do or how I should feel. In the end, I just stand there silently staring down at where the car disappeared from sight. Goodbye, Lily. All I can do in response to her quiet, mournful goodbye is to place a hand on her shoulder. She looks at me for a few moments before looking back down the hill, secure in the knowledge that I'm still around for her. What we'll do from now doesn't seem all that uncertain. We all have our own ambitions now, just as Lily said, but even so, it feels like there's a certain missing part in both our lives now, something that can never be replaced. Okay, so it's not over yet? I thought that was the ending. I was about to cry. Not really, but maybe like really. Out of Sunny D. Oh fuck. I snap my mobile phone's closing contrast. Let me retry that. The snap of my mobile phone's closing contrasts with the ambient chatter and noise audible even in the hallway outside the library. It's the first day of the summer holidays, a time that had perpetually seemed so far away, and yet it's now not only here, but it also made painful obviously by the students or lack of thereof left in the school. Most students have returned home to spend the holidays with relatives by now. The few that are left are mostly chatting between themselves, usually about what they intend to do in the coming weeks. It makes me feel like the odd one out for taking advantage of the school library being open for the first several days of the holidays. Ostensibly, it's for students to drop off any books they've borrowed and have yet to return, and for those who will have their parents pick them up to help pass the time until they get whisked away. Thanks to the recent lengthy phone call from my parents, which had so rudely awoken me from my sleeping on a beanbag at the back of the library, I'm now in the latter category, sliding my phone back into my pocket, this time remembering to set it to silent. I go back into the quiet, wholly placid room. It's just a nostalgic sight, just as when Lily first led me to the library. The orange tint of the sunset bathes the room in its light, while Hanako sits on a beanbag silently reading, and Yuko fusses, just barely audible, behind the counter. Hanako, especially, has been noticeably more quiet than usual since yesterday's happenings, but I can't really blame her. It wasn't just me that depended on that person, after all. I quietly walked back to the beanbag near her, where I'd sat before, being doubly careful not to make any unnecessary noise. The soft puff it gives us the air as the bag takes my wake, makes Hanako's eyes flick towards me, but only for a second. I get the feeling Hanako's been quiet only partly out of sadness following Lily's departure. Rather, she seems more thoughtful and measured than I'd expected. Perhaps due to her desire of working out how to deal with Lily's leaving, rather than just being depressed over it. It makes me a little proud of her. Hey, Hanako? Yeah? Still going ahead with your idea of traveling? She gives a determined nod. I'll be starting in a day or two. Naomi's decided to come with me, too. Wow, quick start. Where are you two headed to first? I think we're going to start by going north, then loop down and go southward. So, Hokkaido going to be first? She gives another nod, more attentive than the last. The significance of that place is not lost on either of us. Do you know how you're going to handle the traveling expenses and accommodations? Yeah, I've worked everything out. I think it should be okay. Naomi says she has her side worked out too. You know that if you need anything, you can just call, right? I gave you my number before. Any time of the day is fine. She gives a smile, which in itself feels a small personal victory. I know. It's a thanks, Hisao. Maybe Lily was right. Although I may offer Hanako any help I could possibly give, I feel as if I know she doesn't need it. She really has grown. Hanako's plans for her holidays are in sharp contrast to my simple following of my parents' suggestion to stay with them. Holidays had always made me feel less excited than most. So maybe this is just a return to the status quo. Before my heart attack, I'd always lived so aimlessly that holidays weren't all that much different from my everyday life anyway. After school, I'd wander around a bit of the city, often hanging out with some friends, before making my way home to eat dinner, with usually one of my parents, but rarely both. Their work schedule didn't leave much time for them to be home, and going there straight from school would just have meant I'd end up feeling bored. I was an urbanite through and through. Since coming to Yamaku, though, it feels like I've fundamentally changed as a person. The phone call with my parents erased any trace of doubt I might have held on that in any case. While before I had exercised a fairly normal level of independence for a teenager, that being not a lot, my parents were more than pleased to hear of my newfound ability in taking care of myself. Laundry, cooking for myself, cleaning, all in addition to the other general chores that come from living without parents around. Just little menial things Sorry, Ow, something's going off around the apartment complex that leaves a beeping sound, and I thought it was done. And it's not, unfortunately. Just little menial things I've had to pick up, but with relative ease. Now I think about it, I'd always depended on them, even if they hadn't been at home all the time. To say I never depended on anyone after moving to Yamaku dormitories would be far from the truth, though. Excuse me. The two of us look up at an awkwardly fidgeting figure in front of us. Some things never change. It's getting close to closing time, so oh right, I'd forgotten the library closes earlier during the holidays. Hanako and I both get up and dust ourselves off, placing our books back on the shelves behind us. The fact that our tastes in reading material have a fair amount of overlap is useful at times. With a bow to Yuko to apologize for taking so much time, Hanako takes her leave of us. See you tomorrow, Hisao. Bye. And with that, she walks out of the large wooden aging doors that herald the entrance to the library. She's a quiet person, isn't she? I suppose I should be surprised at a staff member sharing personal opinions like that, but after knowing Yuko for a while, it's largely expected. Our relationship's more personal rather than one with her acting as an authority figure. Yeah, I think that's just how she is. She's got a lot more confidence in herself these days, though. I don't know her as well as you do, but I think I agree. It's nice to see her talking to people here. She never used to do that before. Hey Yuko, you know about Lily's leaving, right? She told me herself a few days ago. It must be hard leaving everyone behind like that. She is. She quickly looks back to me after she says this, probably remembering that I went to her for advice on the relationship between Lily and I before. Are you going to be okay? That's a difficult question. It's something I'd rather not think about for now. So, given my more pressing issues, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Had to get water and use the bathroom, so. Something seems kind of off. Kind of off about this whole deal, don't you think? Yuko appears to think for a while, absent-mindedly scrubbling? What is scrubbling? Scrunching her face up in a variety of creative ways as she does so. I don't think I really know her well enough to make that kind of judgment. I'm sorry, I can't be of more help. No, that's fine, I'm just sort of thinking aloud. I keep a deep sigh and scratch my head in frustration. There's just so much stuff happening at once, and I have no control over. It feels like I'm being swamped. I think everyone goes through those times like that. What's important is to concentrate on what you can do rather than what you can't do. At least that's how I see it. If I didn't think like that, I don't think I'd be able to manage my life as it is. She says it with a smile and a light tone, but her words are far from any kind of joke. Being pulled between two jobs as she is, just to hopefully make enough money not to only live, but also for university must be exhausting, and I'm adjusting my mic. Perhaps that's why, coming from her, this feels as if it's more meaningful than it had come from most others. I guess you've got a point there. Thank you for your advice once again, Yuko. She bows deeply and smiles again, before making her way back to the counter where she spends so much of her time. The tiny wings of the cardboard crane in my fingers are only just visible in the dim light of my room. Just a little of the moonlight being able to peek through the curtains and around their edges. Well, it's kind of cool. They never show us like hand holding stuff. It's always like, whole body or something. I lie still in my dark bed for a long time, idly looking up at the little origami bird. It feels like a lot's happened since Lily folded this, but at the same time it feels like very little has changed. Compared to everyone else, I'm back to square one. I might have a newfound idea of where I want to go in life, but that's hardly something that affects me now. Hanako changed. I know that much. If anything, she just makes me feel like I've got no excuse to be like this, considering her previous situation. Lily, though, I turn the bird in my fingers another way, looking at it from yet another angle. When I first met her, she seemed aloof and perhaps somewhat distant. Her actions were always carefree, measured and precise, and her carefully maintained composure always gave the appearance of unerring confidence and serenity. In time, she became less formal, just a bit, but enough. It felt good to see her lowering her inhibitions around me and opening up, even just a little, of her own accord. It felt as if I was seeing her real self slowly become more vibrant and visible. Now, though, I'm beginning to have doubts. Perhaps they're to be expected after what is effectively the two of us breaking up. They don't feel new or strange though, but rather like an old book being found and dusted off. I soon realized after meeting Lily that she saw me as she did Hanako, as someone who needed help and care. At first, I simply thought that we'd be fine as friends, helping each other through our limited time together in school. But then I began to treasure our moments together more and more. From our quiet walks to our talking over lunch. The good sides of her personality, before even more obvious and ever more likable. The absence caused by Lily's trip to Scotland to visit her long-distant family and sick aunt only made me realize how much I liked just being around her, and I had thought that she felt a similar way. For her, though, maybe that wasn't everything to our relationship. Even after she returned to Japan, that just meant she lost her family once again after meeting them for such a brief time. She lived so much of her life without her family around, not to mention with Akira working long hours, that she had little choice but to be like that. I had thought her sense of independence to be a good and admirable trait. It was in stark difference to my reliance on my parents before my heart attack, as reluctant as I may have been to admit it. However, it also meant that she never let people get too close to her. She lost her family likely due to her blindness, went to a different school from anybody she knew because of it, and worked all the harder to make sure she didn't end up a burden on her sister and those around her. And now Akira's going to Inverness, just like the family she thought she'd lost. She never told me of her plans, as conflicted as she was about them. Lily didn't want to be a burden on anyone, including me. I'm an idiot. I never questioned it. I never tried to be there or asked when she needed me to. I just set my life up and expected it to stay that way forever, with the two of us being a nice long relationship when we pushed forwards towards our future together. A small pit of frustration and anger at myself wells up in my chest. I just let everything happen, never even trying to help Lily. Just her being there was enough. I thought I could keep going on if that were true. But that could never have been enough. It was like a childlike dependence on somebody, without any attempt to understand or help their situation. Thanks to that, I lost slowly. I lost the one person I loved most because I wasn't there for her when she needed me. With an increasingly angry feeling washing over me, I turn over and set the crane back on the desk next to my clock, the place where it has lived since the day where she folded it for me. Since that day when she herself said that my burdens would need be my own. The obnoxious bright numerals of my alarm clock shine through the darkness of the room onto my tired eyes. 10 o'clock. Evening. Curfew will be soon. I wonder. Akira mentioned they'd be leaving this evening. I have no idea exactly when their flight is, but that means there's a chance, however small, that they might not have already left. Adrenaline starts to move through my body as I sit up on my bed, my eyes suddenly wide with possibility. Yeah. There's no guarantee that they haven't left. Indeed, it is likely they already have, but there's also a chance they haven't, however small it may be. Just this once, just as I should have before. I stand up and rush over to my cabinet, throwing out some clothes as fast as I can and sliding them on in quick succession. Each second that goes by is a second that I can't regain, a second that may mean the difference between catching them and losing them forever. Even if I fail, I have to try. I can't let her leave everything behind without even trying to stop her. Without